Hi, I'm Chet Marchwinski, Communications Director at the Lean Enterprises. Your organization's products and services embody all your value-adding activities, plus they form important connections with other functions. As a result, they're the perfect platform for organizational change. And as my next guest will argue, if you really want to create lean enterprise change, you have to focus upstream at product development. Here to explain is Jim Morgan. Jim was a global engineering director at Ford Motor Company during the product-led turnaround under CEO Allen Mulally. He is a Shingo Prize-winning author whose latest book, co-authored with Jeff Liker, is Designing the Future. Currently, he is a senior advisor at the Lean Enterprise Institute and founder of LEI's Lean Product and Process Development effort, and he is the interim COO at Rivian. Jim, thanks for being here, taking some time away from the annual Lean Product and Process Development Conference to answer some questions.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So why, you get around a lot, you see companies, why do so many struggle with implementing lean in operations?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a lot of reasons for that. The thing that I see most often is that they don't enroll people in the process. They don't make them part of the process. They establish separate initiatives and use sort of isolated people to roll them out, as opposed to actually using the work to enroll people into the change and seeing LPPD not as an initiative, but as a way to do the work, right, as an enabler to enhance your performance.
How has lean product and process development evolved or changed in the past decade? You and Jeff Liker, about 10 years ago, wrote your first book, The Toyota Development System. So we've been watching this LPPD effort for 10 years, and where is it going?
Yeah, it's been great. It's changed so much since our original research. Really? Initially, Taka Fujimoto, Durward Sobek, Jeff Liker, myself, Alan Ward, did a significant amount of research into this. But since then, it's been taken on by companies around the world. I think at last year's conference, we had, 10 or 12 countries represented at the conference. We have people practicing these methods in industries like aerospace, oil and gas exploration, consumer electronics, just a really broad group of organizations. Even Michigan Medicine is applying LPPD principles to develop better clinical processes. Last year we heard from Kendra Lath from MIT D-Lab and how they're utilizing these principles and practices to improve their ability to reach out and improve the lives of underserved markets around the world. So as the use expands over time, it continues to evolve and grow, and it's really gratifying to see where it's going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, in your latest book with Jeff Liker, Designing the Future, you note that companies tend, and this is related to the last question, companies tend to narrow this view on improving current conditions in operations, targeting labor cost reductions in manufacturing. But I've got to ask, what's wrong with that?
There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but you have to first understand what is the value you're creating for your customer. If you don't have that understanding, you could be implementing a cost reduction while simultaneously sacrificing significant value from the perspective of your customer. The other thing is that oftentimes, if you begin your lean work on the shop floor, even though you call it Kaizen, it's really rework. It's reworking things that should have been much, much better coming out of the development system. And so by moving upstream and focusing your efforts earlier in the process, you can have a much bigger impact.
And you touched on this earlier, just like lean production concepts spread to healthcare and other industries, it looks like are you seeing LPPD diffuse like that to other industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned healthcare. I mentioned the mission of D-Lab and the great work that they're doing there. But this year, for instance, I've begun to work with Sebastian Fixen, who is an associate dean at Babson College, not only on how to apply these principles in the development of students, of the next generation of developers, but also to think about developing an R&D function in academics, right? Seeing if we can apply these principles to develop new products and services in the academic world where the needs of the customers have changed dramatically, and you could argue that universities maybe haven't kept up with those needs. And so trying to create a sort of product development function at an academic level is also an interesting application. And as you mentioned, several weeks ago, I started as an interim COO at Rivian.
That's right.
Which is an EV startup. And so applying these principles in a startup environment has also proven to be extremely interesting.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Kind of a related question now would be, Rivian's an EV startup. The other day I read an article about blockchain coming into manufacturing, and of course we've seen the articles about digitization. So why should managers and executives watching us today learn about lean product and process development when all these other trends seem to be disrupting business?
Yeah, so those, are, in my view, are primarily tools, and I think they're very powerful tools, and we can do some really great things with them. And so I have sort of nothing against it, but I also am wary whenever I hear about silver bullets. In my career, very seldom have new technologies turned out to be the silver bullet that solves everything. And there can also be sort of a downside to these technologies, especially if they keep you from going to the Gemba, right? If they trap you in your office looking at streams of data instead of enabling you to go to the Gemba and see what's really going on, either with your customer or with your manufacturing operation or wherever the Gemba might be. I think that the principles of lean in that respect are timeless, and we should be thinking about how we can leverage these new tools and technologies to make us even more effective, as opposed to thinking about them as a replacement for those technologies.
Very interesting, Jim. Thanks a lot for coming in and sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And thank you for watching. To learn more about lean product and process development, go to leanpd.org. That's leanpd.org. And help yourself to all the resources on the site, and sign up for Jim's monthly e-letter on lean product and process development. And while you're there, pick up a copy of Designing the Future. You'll see how other companies are leveraging product development for organizational change.